While you and I were sleeping, there was a team of engineers out there working diligently to create a friggin' 16-inch laptop that's less than 3 pounds in overall weight. That's just crazy, honestly. Of course, today we're gonna see if the LG Gram 16 has more to offer than just, I guess, its lack of weight. The point being, let's get into this review, but first, a cinematic introduction. In terms of its specifications, this current generation of the Gram 16 is rocking Intel's i7-1360P series Evo certified processor, 16GB of LPDDR5 memory. We also have a modest 512GB SSD, Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics. We do have a slightly dated Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1 standard, and of course this is a 16-inch display. Since I did get a demo unit, I'm going to kind of skip the unboxing as I didn't get a chance to do it myself. What I will tell you is out of the box, technically you will get the LG Gram 16, of course. You also get a 65-watt charging brick, which is nice to see, and a USB-C to USB-C charging cable. Design-wise, there's actually a lot to talk about. So at first glance, this seems like your modern-day productivity laptop. You've got clean linear edges. It's not excessive in terms of the grooves or the design element itself, and it's got a nice clean black color with a more rough or matte type finish overall. Now the build quality is magnesium alloy from top to bottom, but it's so thin that it honestly just feels like plastic, which means this laptop doesn't necessarily feel as premium. Of course, this is deliberately done to achieve the ridiculously low weight of just 2.64 pounds. That is freakishly light for a 16-inch machine, and you can feel it right away. But again, if you're trying to get a very premium feeling laptop, the LG Gram does make that compromise to achieve its mentionable weight. Now, of course, starting with the top side again, you'll notice it's a clean surface over here, so it's got a bit of a rough finish, but no unnecessary textures. You will also notice you have the Gram branding, which actually looks pretty nice with that reflective surface. Diversity is, well, rather interesting. So on one side, you have a severely outdated HDMI 1.4 port. You also have two Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports, a headphone jack as well. On the other side, you have two USB-A super speed ports, which is nice to see. And then for whatever reason, a micro SD card reader as opposed to a full-size one. Why? I don't know, but it is a weird thing to not include. Bottom of the laptop has a clean magnesium alloy finish as well. You'll notice you have a nice large air intake vent with a single fan setup. You also have two speaker grills, one on either corner. So it is a bottom firing stereo speaker setup. We'll do a sound test a little bit later on. As soon as you unfold this laptop, you're immediately reminded that you have a nice large 16-inch machine here. I mean, just look at the sheer amount of palm rest space you have here. You have that same magnesium alloy finish, though again, you kind of have that rough plastic finish feel as opposed to a normal metallic one, which is again a compromise you kind of have to make. It's also a bit of a fingerprint magnet, which is a bit of an aesthetic eyesore. Nonetheless, at the center, you have a nice large trackpad. There is a lot of surface real estate here. Unfortunately, it is a plastic surface trackpad. This really should have been a glass surface finish, which does mean you have a pretty notable amount of flex, but somehow it still feels pretty tactile. Still here, I'm so happy to see that. If you are enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. It honestly puts bread on the table and it means more than you'll ever know. Thank you so much for watching. Let's continue. The keyboard is genuinely one of the best things about this laptop. Firstly, you'll notice the keycaps are large and wide, the font is easy to read, and those black keycaps just have a nice look to them. Additionally, it's fully backlit, and you do have multiple brightness settings at that. You also have the inclusion of a 10 keypad, a dedicated power button, and my favorite thing is the actual typing experience, because my goodness, is it tactile. It feels so nice. You have a good amount of key travel, and the overall typing experience is right there with the likes of Lenovo's IdeaPad series, for example, a 10 out of 10 typing experience. Something that's almost as good as the keyboard is the hinge mechanism. Firstly, you can open up the hinge with a single hand. I love that. Additionally, the resistance level is perfectly perfectly tuned. There is a little bit of wobble, but when you're actually kind of opening, or should I say unfolding this laptop, I guess, it just feels really nice and smooth. Now the display fitting is also quite nice, so you have a fairly thin chin at the bottom. It's not very noticeable. Again, the bezels are also super thin and narrow, giving a modern and immersive display. And then at the top you have a moderately thin forehead. At the center of it all, you have a full HD webcam that comes with built-in facial recognition. Today's video is in partnership with Aohi. Are you sick of chunky looking 65-watt charging adapters? They're an absolute nuisance to carry around, especially if you just want to keep them in your pocket. Well, check out this 65-watt charging adapter by Aohi. Aside from having a ridiculously slim profile, it's got a super cool transparent design so you can see all the internals, giving some serious cyberpunk vibes. Additionally, you're like, where is the power prong? Well, bloop, look at that. What? That's right. It's so conveniently hidden and camouflaged, and it's just as easy to put the lid back on, and just like that, it's slim again. Additionally, you do have a fully modernized USB-C charging port here, capable of fast power delivery, and thanks to the tri-mode lighting system, you'll get all the details you need about the charging status of your device at a glance. I will leave a link in the video description below in case you're interested. The display here kind of seems to like go for greatness, but then kind of run out of gas halfway through. So I'll tell you what I mean by that. So you basically have a nice crisp resolution of 2560 by 1600, which also gives you a beautiful 16 by 10 aspect ratio. You also have a nice high quality IPS panel with wide viewing angles, but unfortunately then you just have 60 Hz of refresh rate. You don't get any sort of touch captivity, but the real crime is the fact that you have a peak brightness of just over 300 nits. That's not a good number. There's barely enough brightness here to compensate for super bright days. Thankfully, the anti-glare coating does help a little bit. Now, on a more positive note, you have a 99% DCI P3 color gamut coverage. This is absolutely amazing because colors look vivid, sharp, and lifelike with this display. It's great for productivity and creative needs, though you don't get HDR certification due to the low brightness level. In terms of performance, a quick recap. Again, you have the 1360p i7 processor. Additionally, you get 16GB of LPDDR5 memory and Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics. In day-to-day performance, this laptop just absolutely destroys everything, whether it's surfing the web, watching videos on YouTube like this one, or perhaps doing some basic word processing. More complex activities like programming on Python, or perhaps you're doing 3D Blender animations, they're very much possible, and this laptop does a pretty good job with those kind of activities. Super demanding activities like multi-layer 10-bit 4K video editing on DaVinci Resolve is entirely possible. Now, granted, there are frame drops every now and then, and if you have too many layers, it can become a bit of a choppy experience, but it's still a pretty powerful machine. That P-series processor can definitely lift the weight, and 16GB is a decent amount of memory to have along your backside or workflow. Now, as far as gaming performance is concerned, I was genuinely impressed. Iris Xe graphics have come a long way. Games like Fortnite can run well above 60 frames per second at lower medium settings, and if you take that further down, you can easily hit 90 plus FPS, which is again a testament as to how far integrated graphics have come. Thermals are a pretty cool story. No, literally. I mean, under unrealistic peak loads, this laptop only hits an average surface temperature of about 41 degrees Celsius. More realistic sustained loads will yield you around 37 degrees Celsius, which is a very reasonable number. Of course, having a 16-inch body helps with better heat dissipation, but good thermals are good thermals. Now, you do have a single fan setup, and the fan doesn't get too loud, and it doesn't go on too often either. I would say you hit around 50 decibels of peak noise levels, which again is a pretty acceptable number. In terms of self-upgradability, your options are fairly limited. So the RAM is entirely soldered, it's onboard memory. However, you can upgrade the SSD storage. So you do have two M.2 slots, one of which of course is preoccupied, but it's nice to have that option nonetheless. You have a nice and large 80 watt-hour battery, and based on our real-world test, we got right around 10.5 hours on a single charge. Of course, this will vary depending on what you're doing. Now, you do have a dual stereo speaker system here, which basically means that the audio sounds fairly crisp, and I was actually again pleasantly surprised as to how loud these speakers on this laptop can get. Here's a quick sound test for your reference. Retailing for approximately $1,700 for this configuration, the LG Gram 16 has a specific mission to make a machine that's as light as possible while still delivering some pretty powerful general productivity performance. And in that regard, this laptop nails it. I mean, the Gram 16 honestly has the best of both worlds, but this is not a perfect world and certain compromises had to be made. The first one, of course, is the fact that you have a very shallow exterior. Even though it is technically magnesium alloy, it feels plasticky and doesn't feel nearly as premium as most other laptops in this price category or range. However, of course, weight was a necessary factor here. Now, with that said, other clumsy design elements like having a micro SD card reader or just a 60Hz refresh rate on the base iteration of this laptop are things that could definitely do with some improvement. But nonetheless, the LG Gram is a great machine if weight is a priority for you without compromising on general performance or specifications. Let me know what you think of the LG Gram 16 and the LG Gram series in general. I'd love to hear all your thoughts, and as always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. It genuinely helps me grow. Catch you in the next one.